Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Friday Night Young at Heart, featuring nursery rhymes, stories, songs, poems, Mother Goose, Aesop's fables, Lewis Carroll, limericks, larks, epic stories of the great operas, and such, to keep us all young at heart. I'm Father James DiLuzio with the Paulist Fathers here in the library of the Rectory in New York City. And tonight we have the exciting conclusion of Fairyfoot by Frances Browne, with some interpolations by yours truly. That's part of the fun of retelling stories, especially old stories and fairy tales. Embellishment, I think, is the word. Yeah. So I'm not going to offer you a synopsis of parts 1 and 2, but if you are following me for the first time, go to my YouTube channel, Father James DiLuzio, go to the playlist Young at Heart and choose Fairyfoot Part 1 and Fairyfoot Part 2. For the rest, we have our young man there, Fairyfoot, his name is, used as a derogatory name by the people of Stomping Ground. All the people have the big, large, huge feet, but not he. He's proportioned like most humans are. He hears of another land beyond the forest where there's a beautiful princess in a land where people have proportionate feet just like his. And he's astounded that there is such a place. And he's also astounded to hear that the princess has the dilemma of having extra large feet, like the people of the land from which he came. So he goes in search, and he finds, and hearing the fairies that he used to go dancing with, including Robin Goodfellow. That's the fairy that he met first and went for his dancing escapades each night, to find a grove of ivy and follow a path beyond the grove where the ivy would lead him to this new land. So he does, and of course when the people see him, they're astounded that anyone should come through the dense forest. They're also astounded to look at his clothes. I mean, he's dressed very, very poorly, and this seems to be quite a wealthy and highly educated new place, new to him, of course. And they ridicule him too, just like the people on Stomping Ground. However, as he tells his story, which they do let him get a word in edgewise, they're quite intrigued to find out that one, something from Stomping Ground, which they knew about, had feet proportionate as like their own, and that he knew from the fairies, and that he knew fairies was quite something in his favor, about a pond where the princess could restore her extra large feet back to her normal average size feet. Now, of course, he offered to take the princess, and no one would let her, but she had quite an entourage and a favorite pet fawn. And so with that, it was only the queen, her mother, who thought it was worthwhile adventure for the young princess Maybloom, especially if she were escorted by all this entourage. So off they go. And when they do, as the young man did know of the replenishing pool to restore her feet to their rightful size, she won't go in at first. She's a princess after all, but one of the lords in waiting tries first, and he suddenly becomes more handsome than he's ever been, and the ladies in waiting try next, and they become more beautiful than they've ever been, and everyone's wondering, well, what's going to happen when Princess Maybloom, because she's the most beautiful, exquisite creature, the most magnificent lady of fine beauty. She couldn't get any better, which was true. But at least her feet will be restored. And that's exactly what happens. And there's great rejoicing. And then our young man, Fairyfoot, says, oh, if only I could find the pool that you first bathed in where your feet became large, and then I could return home and I'd be accepted by my mother and my father and the shepherds, and I'll be given a better job, and I think life will be much better for me. But he says it with a certain hesitation because he can't stop gazing in the eyes of the beautiful Princess Maybloom. So she says, I know where it is. I can take you. Are you sure? And first he says, well, let's go. But just as he's about to step in and get large feet, he hears the dancing and the singing of the fairies, all his friends, including Robin Goodfellow. And he remembers the enchantment of it. And so he says, well, let's wait. Let's go dancing with the fairies. And he and Princess Maybloom and the entourage go, and they have a glorious, wonderful, beautiful time. And guess what? They fall in love. And so Fairyfoot says he decides he will return and be the servant to Princess Maybloom. And they should be happy companions all their day. But when they arrive, the queen and the king and the others are so delighted that Maybloom has been restored to the fullness of her beauty and proportion. He is offered the hand of the princess, and since they were in love, she accepts, and they're going to live happily ever after. Now, there's one little caveat as Miss Browne continues. He does still miss his parents, even though they treated him so harshly. But he decides that he would like to go and visit, and Princess Maybloom has this idea. She says, well, why don't we go en route, first put our feet into the pool that will make our feet large, and then go and see how they act. But are you sure you want to see these people again? And he does. So that's what they do every now and then, but not too often. They will go make their feet large and go visit his family, who of course are overjoyed and wants them to stay, but they say no. Our proper home is with Maybloom. And then on the way home, they go to the magic spring pool and get their feet back to proportion, and then they live happily ever after. I did not expect the reconciliation with the big feet of stomping ground people, but he's a very kind person, like we find as the hero or heroine of good fairy tales. The protagonist often has a very, very good and reconciling heart, usually. So there we have it. I hope you enjoyed it. Any surprises? Put them in the commentary. If you'd like to make any additions or changes in the story of your own, put them in. Just tell me why. All right, have a wonderful weekend. It's President's Weekend, so hopefully you have an extra day to relax. Try to keep a Sabbath. Have one day where we don't use technology at all. I do try. And God bless you all. Thanks so much.